I want to work through your career because you've had many different levels in college and high school, and obviously now a legendary coach. But, in high school you were a two-sport athlete, right? So where did you find that love for basketball? Now it's been your whole life.
Yeah.
But did you love it immediately?
Yeah. I grew up. My older brother was a basketball player. He played in college as well, and so, just going out into the driveway with him, and I always wanted to do everything he did. So, just fell in love with the game early. Just wanting to hang out with him and do what he did, and if I found success early, and so whenever you find success early in something, you gravitate it. But I love the process of the game. I love practicing. I love, I even love just being outside shooting, free throws, or in a gym by myself. It's just it's just a great game that requires both individual skill, but such great teamwork, and I love that camaraderie. I love taking a group of people and working towards something to be successful. So to me, it's just such a great game. It's a very hard game. It's hard to master. And I kind of like that element too, that it's always changing. So it's just, it's a great game. And I've loved being a part of it for so long.
And basketball is a lot of ups and downs in games, in seasons. And I think it's interesting. You were a multi-sport athlete at Libertyville, but then you went to Duke, and 3 years, let's just say you didn't play as much.
No.
What did you learn about yourself and the game of basketball when you were a lesser-known player?
Yeah. I learned how to coach. I learned how to coach. I learned how to value every single person on the team, no matter if your role was very significant on the court or your role was more of a practice player. I think those two things were the most valuable lessons I learned, and while it was difficult to not play as much when you're on a team, to me it's really what has led me to what I consider my greatest success as a coach is just being inclusive and to give a great experience to as many kids as possible.
So it was at Duke that you wanted to be a coach, or then you went to Niles North. But when did you realize that this was your passion?
I think one of the things I got to do when I was at Duke was watch Coach K. Hall of Fame, incredible coach. So getting to see how he ran his practices, how he interacted with his kids, was just really inspiring. My own high school coach allowed me to help run clinics and summer camp, and so I really enjoyed that. I just always was a student of the game. I enjoyed watching basketball. I enjoyed watching my older brother play, and so I just really I went to school to be pre-med, but then that changed, and so when I found myself kind of leaning toward teaching, coaching was a great part of that as well. So.
And I've read some of your articles, obviously, after the 600th win, and you said practice, right? Practice makes perfect. You're big on practice, and I see a lot of that in Coach K, right? Yeah. So, what did you take away from Coach K while watching him, and also how he kind of organized practice?
Mm-hmm. I actually think the thing I took most from Coach K was an incident that occurred. One of my good friends was on the men's team, didn't play it much at all, was not in the lineup, never got in, was the last kid off the bench in games, and he was struggling. He was struggling with school, and Coach K asked me to come into his office one day after my practice, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? And he said, hey, I know you're friends with Joe. What can we do to help Joe? And I remember that was just so profound for me to think, okay, Joe doesn't play, but yet you care about him so much that you are looking to get a circle around him to help him be his best. And it wasn't going to impact Coach K's wins or losses, because Joe wasn't getting any time. But I remember thinking that how great that was, that he cared about his players enough to know so much about them and who they were, who their friends were, and how best to help them. So that to me was probably the greatest lesson I learned. And I think the other thing that I learned is you need to be harder in practice than you are in a game. Like, people didn't realize how, like, Coach K could be pretty mean. He had, he was an Army guy, and he had some colorful language.
Yeah.
But you didn't see that as much on the court, because he always felt that practice had to be the most difficult environment that you play in, and that the game should be easier. And so, I'm not always as good at that as I want to be. We never are, but that's always, you try to make practice more challenging than a game.
You're a influential role in high school women's basketball, obviously, women's sports. When did you really find your voice in that, and when did you say, wait, I could do something about this?
Yeah.
You set up a camp, you won an award.
Yeah. I really think that it didn't really happen until about 6-7 years ago, when I just started to think about, there's so much to do here, and I've always kind of been known as someone that I really didn't know a whole lot of what was going on, outside of our realm, because I was just so concerned about coaching our kids and our program. So I wasn't real involved in the state and, kind of promoting girls basketball as much until about 7 years ago. I got together with a group of female coaches, and we got together and kind of came up with this idea that we wanted to run a tournament that every team in the tournament was run by, the head coach was a female. And we just wanted to showcase that the importance of women leading. And so we, together with a couple of other women, we started this Grow the Game showcase. It started with 14 teams. This past year we had 49 teams in it, and every team is coached by a female. We do have a new iteration where some of the great male coaches in the area wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to know how they could promote it and be a part of this, and so they have female assistants, and their female assistant coaches the game, and so they've gotten involved as well. So it's been it's really been a great kind of addition to what I've done, and been really fortunate to be a part of this group of women who've done this, and it's been a lot of fun.
And for those efforts, you actually in 2023 won the Darryl Kipp Award.
Yep.
I know he was a mentor of yours, legendary head coach.
Yep.
Died in 2016. What did that moment mean to you?
Yeah, that was kind of surreal in some ways, just simply because he actually helped me get my scholarship at Duke. And so to from being a 17-year-old and looking up to him, and him being so helpful in getting me where I was, to compete against him as a coach, to work with him as a coach, and then to get this award was pretty surreal, and it was really very meaningful, kind of coming full circle. So it was, and to me it was also a changing of the guard in some ways. Like, this early on, women's basketball was really guided by a lot of men, and him being one, and they were great, and they were very influential, and now, women taking these really influential roles and moving the game to the next level, and so it was kind of it was a neat moment.
Year number 26. Why is this the year to retire?
Well, it's funny, I just was talking about this. Part of it, I have a daughter who's going to be a junior, and I kind of want to be a mom.
Yep.
I want to be a full-time mom and give more to her. She's, when you are teaching full-time and coaching full-time, you takes you away from home a lot. I think I've only been to half of her games this year, and so getting to see her play the next couple of years is going to be really fun.